Good day everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about the Organization for National Defense and Security. President Commander-in-Chief, the President of the Philippines exercises his authority over the Armed Forces of the Philippines AFP as Commander-in-Chief in view of the principle of supremacy of civilian authority over the military in order to strengthen his vital constitutional principle which is a fundamental requirement of democracy. Secretary of National Defense, Delfin Negrillo Lorenzana is a retired Philippine Army General serving as the Secretary of National Defense in the cabinet of President Rodrigo Duterte. He served in the Philippine Army from 1973 to 2004, mandated to safeguard the country against external and internal threats to national peace and security, promote and welfare of soldiers and veterans, and provide support for economic and social development. Chief of Staff AFP Lieutenant General Jose Faustino Jr. The Chief of Staff executes the commands directly given by the President to the armed forces in relation to military operations. He is responsible for planning, developing, and executing the National Defense Program prescribed by the Secretary of National Defense. General Headquarters Afp Organization. CSEFP, Chief of Staff of Armed Forces of the Philippines, is the highest military officer in the armed forces. He commands all its elements, the Philippine Air Force, Army, and Navy. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, being protector of the people, plays a crucial role in preserving peace and harmony by defending the country against terrorism and other forms of threats, whether of civilian or military nature. VCSEFP, Vice Chief of Staff of Armed Forces of Philippines. Armed Forces of the Philippines AFP Vice Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Erickson Gloria lead the dawning ceremony of the AFP headquarters in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City. OSSS, Office of Strategic Special Study, to conduct research and studies on national, regional, and international strategic issues and concern that impact on the mission and function of the armed forces, to communicate the significance and implication of this concern to various internal and external publics, and to conduct independent review and evaluation of existing AFP policies in the pursuit of organizational efficiency and effectiveness. ESPA, Ethical Standard and Public Accountability, is directly response in the promotion through dissemination and implementation of anti-corruption program in AFP. LOLA, Liaison Office for Legislative Affairs, to promote presidential legislative initiatives and other administration-sponsored priority policy reforms and development program responsive to the realization of the President's social contract with the Filipino people and the achievement of Philippine development. EFP-MPMO, Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program Management Office, to organize, train, and equip Air Forces prompt and sustain operation in the air. TIG, the Inspector of General, investigate violation of law and Department of Relations for appropriate criminal prosecution, civil litigation, and administrative action, conduct, report, and follow up on financial audits of department, organizations, program, contract, grants, and other agreements. PIO, Public Information Office, to receive application on behalf of NCW and acknowledge them with date on such request, to assign number of requests under RTI Act and to enter it in a register with number, to scrutinize application and find out concerned section to whom request is to be forwarded. AFPSM, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Sergeant Major Sergeant Aladdin S. Dakayanan PE, serve as the bridge of the AFP enlisted personnel and the Corps of Non-Commissioned Officer to AFP Chief of Staff and to Officer Corps. GOC, Joint Operations Center, a jointly manned facility of Joint Force Commanders Headquarters established for planning, monitoring, and guiding the execution of Commander's decision. AFP-BSO Armed Forces of the Philippine Budget System Office. PDCS Deputy Chief of Staff usually considered the second in command to the head of mission, usually an ambassador. DCMS typically serve as a key of advisor to the Chief of Mission as well as the Chief of Staff, responsible for the day-to-day management of the post. SGS Secretary of Joint Staff to ensure personnel readiness, policy, planning, and training of their respective service combatant commanders to utilize. DCS Pierce G1, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel, to provide the Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Manpower and Personnel Council, and support in order to develop best military advice to national decision makers and provide strategic direction to the joint force, enabling global integration to achieve maximum comprehensive joint force readiness. DCS Intel G2, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence, serves as the intelligence community manager for support to military operation and is the director of the Joint Warfighting Capabilities Assessment for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance under the Joint Requirements Oversight Council. DCS OPNS G3 Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for Operation formulates policies, plans, directs, coordinates, and supervises all matters pertaining to organization and operation of AF. DCS Log G4, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, advises the CSAFP on logistic concerns of the AFP and coordinates, supervises, and evaluates the implementation of approved logistic plan and procedures. DCS Plans G5, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Plans, studies and prepares plan outside of the field immediate operational planning to meet all possible war contingencies and advises the CSAFP in the letters discharge of responsibilities pertaining to mutual defense, board, and UN matters. DCS Comp G6, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Communication, Electronics, and Information System Service, direct coordinates and supervises matters pertaining to budgeting, accounting, financial reporting, internal auditing, and management improvement of the AFP. DCS CMO G7, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Civil Military Operation, assists the CSEFP on all matters pertaining to the political, social, economic, and psychological dimension of military operation. DCS TRNGG8, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Education and Training, assists the CSEFP in formulation of plans and policies and in a direction, coordination, and supervision of all matters operating to education and training of AFP personnel. DCSMDG9, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Material Development, plans and administers the development of the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Program of EFP. DCS RRAG-10, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Retirees and Reservist Affairs, assists and advises the CSEFP in the exercise of command and management of all reserve forces and in the conduct of EFP activities related of to retirees affairs and assistance to veterans. DCS CEIS G11, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Electronics and Communication, assists the CAFP in the formulation of the policies and in the planning, direction, coordination, and supervision of all matters pertaining to communication, electronics, and information systems CEIS in the AFP. PAG, the Adjutant General, responsible for Army correspondence and overseas personnel action, records, decoration and awards, publication, postal service, recreational activities, and career guidance. TGAG, the Judge Advocate General, to provide professional legal support and all echelons of command throughout the range of military operations. TPMG, the Chief of Provost Marshal General, responsible for the policy, plans, program, oversight, and the budget for the Army's policing function, including law enforcement, criminal investigation, criminal intelligence fusion, corrections, biometrics and forensics, physical security, high-risk personnel security. TCCS, the Chief Chaplain Service, care for the soul of the Army by ensuring the constitutionally mandated free exercise of religion by delivering spiritual and religious care directly to soldiers, their families, and the Army civilians, and by providing moral leadership. TCE, the Chief Engineer responsible for all operation and maintenance that has to do with any and all engineering equipment throughout the entire ship and supervises all other engineering officer and engine ratings within the department. TCOCS is the Chief Ordnance and Chemical Service. TQMJ, the Quartermaster General, the staff officer in charge of supplies for a whole army. He is in charge of quartermaster unit and personnel, those tasked with providing supplies for military forces and units. TSG, the Surgeon General, to protect, promote, and advance the health of our nation. TCDS, the Chief Development Service, overseeing the financial stability, fundraising, or growth of the organization. OSPS, Office of Chief for Special Service, provide security, safety, general utilize, and special service to the Philippine National Police National Headquarters. That's all. Thank you.